Today I am sad. Sadness is here. Oh, sadness. Me and sadness, we've been on quite a journey. I typically struggle with sadness. For me, for a very long time, I thought that being sad was weak, especially where I come from. It's like there's no room to be sad. Like when you are sad, you're vulnerable and people can take advantage of you in that space. And so I really grew up with that as an idea or a foundation for sadness. And so even now as an adult, I struggle a lot when it comes to just welcoming sadness and allowing it to be there, have its time, and carry on. Put up a lot of resistance towards sadness typically. So today is one of those days. I'm feeling the emotion of sadness pretty strongly in this moment. And it's so interesting because when I think about any emotion, any set of emotions, they are passing things. Like they're not there forever. They come, they hang around for some time, and then they go. But I can see that the resistance when allowing the emotion to be there to exist, just pushing and having putting up a fight makes it stay around so much longer. So I am learning to really sit with sadness when it arises, just as I would sit with happiness, just as I would be with happiness or any other pleasant feeling emotion, allowing it to have its time. And I really like this idea of just taking care of it as if it's a baby, like it's your baby. And it's the most important thing for you to take care of in that moment. Because if we don't take care of our difficult emotions, those emotions can cause harm to other people. So because I absolutely don't want to, like, I don't want to go in a room and give away sadness. I don't want to go in a room and give away anger. I don't want to go into any space and give away jealousy or frustration. And we all know how that feels. Like we know we know when someone is having an internal struggle with the difficult emotion, and we know what that feels like when someone is, and it's not that anything is wrong with that person. We've all been that person before, perhaps. We know what type of energy that gives to a space. And so it doesn't mean that we should never be that person, but it definitely means as much as we can take care of, at least for me, as much as I can take care of my emotions, my emotional landscape, then I will be one less person who is giving that to someone else to have to take care of. I envision it as just taking care of a baby. And you might not even know what the baby needs at all times, but you give the baby, if the baby is crying, you give the baby the attention that it needs so that the baby comes back to a state of ease. And typically, what happens for me at least is that I don't take care of my sadness, or I don't even allow my sadness space to be there. And then that sadness becomes anger. So, and then anger obviously is extremely poisonous. There's so much science these days that shows what happens internally to us, biologically to us, when we are experiencing anger. And then we all know what an angry person looks like, what they say and what they do. And in no shape, way, or form does that better humanity. So today I'm taking care of my baby sadness. And me and my baby sadness, we are just, what are we doing? I just allow myself to sit. Sometimes I just try to feel or observe what sadness feels like what is the experience of sadness. My experience of sadness is definitely a contraction. like not feeling as expansive, not wanting to be social, not feeling as energetic. I also can feel quite tired when I'm experiencing sadness. Mm, I don't feel like talking as much. My breath feels a little bit slower than normal. Like my inhale and my exhale feel a bit slow. Mm. My face becomes long. I'm definitely not thriving in the smiling department when sadness is here. Like right now I'm even holding myself like I'm doing this under the blanket. So I also feel like I don't know what exactly to call it, but it's almost like there's this, maybe that's me creating a sense of safety for myself. I'm not sure, but it definitely feels good to be just cuddled up and warmed by the blanket and by my own hug. Hmm. It's just like any other passing emotion. And I think that the more of an observer that we can come with emotions, all of our emotions, even the pleasant ones, even happiness, even joy, even feeling excited. I think the more that we observe them and we can almost like allow the experience of them rather than attaching to them, rather than trying to push them away, then I think, and I think we become less attached to them, like less attached when they come. And I know for me, I definitely feel less attached to my emotions, even though I can still get extremely caught up in emotions, but my recovery time is much faster. Like the recovery time of coming back to a more equanimous state is much faster than it was before. That's important because then we can actually be alive. I don't know. Somehow I feel like when we get really wrapped up into emotions that it's very difficult to actually be present and actually be alive and in the moment or where we are, because just how emotions actually even work, they are patterns. Then you can't be really in the present moment, completely absorbed by the emotion. And while I think it's very important, especially as a practice, to be with emotions and to really take time to get to know them, to be familiar with them, to take care of them as if they're your babies, and the most important thing so that they don't harm others and that they don't harm us. The more there is space between, the more space there is between the emotion and the less attachment to the emotion, then whenever they come, however they come, they're allowed to be there and they're just there, and they don't become the full experience of our life, of our day, of our existence. They are put into the correct place. In emotion, a process that arises from causes and conditions, is there for some time and then subsides. Actually, when it comes to defining emotions, there is no one actual agreed upon way that scientists have even landed on to define what an emotion is. But one thing that I see in common when I look at some of the definitions of emotions from different neuroscientists, from different psychologists, from different people who have spent lifetime studying emotions, one thing I see in common is how we evaluate or appraise situations. Like emotions being a physiological shift or change based on how how we appraise what is happening around us. And that is very important when I think about it. Like, even when I'm talking about sadness, and even in my experience of sadness, like even as I'm talking about it right now, as a process or as something that is here having its time out to play, and that will eventually pass on, because everything is like that. It has to. Nothing is stagnant or stays forever, because everything is moving. And even just in this moment, as I appraised even as I appraised the situation of sadness, in that way I can literally feel myself, like physiologically I can feel myself a bit more energy sitting up, and not as I mean, it's so it's actually quite interesting when it comes to cognitive appraisal and reappraising situations and the way that we perceive things. And also the fact that we have the ability to change the way we see things. A lot of the way we appraise things are cultural, traditional, are from learned behaviors, are from belief systems perhaps, and it can almost be automatic, our appraisal to certain situations that we are experiencing. And that automatic appraisal sends information to our brain and lets it know how we should react, how it should respond for our welfare. But so many times that automatic appraisal is not necessarily responding to the actual environment that we are in from a clean slate. It's packed with tons of other information that has been stored. But the fact that we can reappraise a situation, we can reappraise something that has happened around us. And from that reappraisal, physiological changes can also happen. When our mind is sad, it tends to become very narrow and self focused. So you focus on my sadness. This is my sadness. I'm sad. This is happening to me. And that feels very real, and it is very real, right? Like, this is the experience that I am having, and it's sad. Like, dang, it's sad. But also, in moments of sadness, like, even thinking of reappraisal, considering the sadness of others, because then that widens our perspective, thinking of others, thinking of the pain and suffering that others are going through. And it's not to diminish what we are experiencing, but it's also to see a few things. One, that we are not the only people in the world that are experiencing this or that has experienced sadness. So many people also experience sadness, and it's a part of the human condition. It's a part of our existing, and our part of having a body, and a part of having a mind and interacting in the world. And so sadness comes. When I reflect on sadness in this way, then it's almost like this narrowness or this closeness starts to open up, and then just a sense of connection to others. So this feeling of isolation that tends to happen with sadness, me wanting to isolate and be alone and not be near people, or not want to tell anyone, or just kind of really struggling with the vulnerability of sadness. But then when I can see that I'm not the only person, I'm not the only one, I'm not, and I won't be the only one ever that ever experiences sadness. And so I'm connected to other people in that way. And also the sadness that other people perhaps are going through in this moment. Also, the levels of sadness that people are experiencing, like losing people that they love in this moment, or having lost someone, or having lost something important to them, or experiencing a grief, or just so many ways that sadness might be happening in someone else's life. And again, not to diminish my own experience of sadness, I can say in this moment that I'm honestly not experiencing the loss of a loved one, or the loss of a friend, in the sense that they're no longer here on the earth. And I also am not experiencing the loss of a material thing that supports my well-being. So when I can kind of widen my perspective on the sadness that I'm experiencing in this moment, it's also very nourishing to know that sadness isn't permanent. It's not here forever. It has to go. It will go. That it's an impermanent phenomena. And for me, that gives me so much relief to know that, okay, even if in these moments sadness is here, the experience of sadness is here, it will not stay forever. So then it makes it a little bit easier to allow it, to not push it, to not attach to it. It makes it just a little bit easier to recognize that it's here for a good time, not a long time. When if you have a crying baby, if you pick the baby up and you start arguing with the baby, I'm going to close this video by reading Rumi's Guest House. It's a very beautiful poem about emotions and the experience of emotions. This being human is a guest house. Every morning, a new arrival, a joy, a depression, a meanness, some momentary awareness comes as an unexpected visitor. Welcome and entertain them all, even if they are a crowd of sorrows who violently sweep your house empty of its furniture. Still treat each guest honorably. He may be clearing you out for some new delight. The dark thought, the shame, the malice, meet them at the door laughing and invite them in. Be grateful for whatever comes, because each has been sent as a guide.